A very warm welcome to you all. You're watching Channel 405. This is AN7 Prime. I'm Leseho Mokonane. Now taking a look at your top story at this hour. National Assembly has supported the South African Reserve Bank's court application on Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane's report and findings on the CIEX. Speaker Baleka Mbete has filed an affidavit stating that the Public Protector's order seeking a change in SARB mandate is unconstitutional as it encroaches on Parliament's exclusive domain. The Public Protector had asked the Reserve Bank and the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee to submit an action plan within 60 days on the implementation of her order. The affidavit argues that Mkhwebane's amendment would remove the primary object of the SARB to protect the value of the currency, leaving the currency unprotected. Parliament spokesperson Moloto Montabo confirmed that the Speaker has filed an affidavit supporting SARB's plea on the Public Protector's findings and report. The affidavit says Public Protector's order is unconstitutional and encroaches on Parliament's exclusive domain and also perverts the separation of powers. The Speaker says Busisiwe's amendment suggesting that SARB's mandate be changed would remove the primary object of the Reserve Bank to protect the value of the rand. The affidavit argues that the Public Protector's order is unconstitutional because it is beyond the scope of her mandate. In her report released on the 19th of June, Mkhwebane found that Absa Bank should pay 1.15 billion rand to the fiscus, holding SARB responsible for failing to do its duty. She also recommended that the mandate of the SARB be changed from targeting inflation to promoting economic growth. The recommendation has led to heated debate, even in the ruling party.
Major debate in the commission. I hear this thing of ownership, but the major issue was the Reserve Bank should not be narrowly focusing on inflation targeting. It must deal with the dynamics in the economy, deal with the problem facing the economy, the question of unemployment, economic growth. It must contribute there.
The recommendation or the decision that Parliament must amend the Constitution, I think, was not well, because it sounds instructing another organ of the state. But I believe the report of the Public Protector on the role and the mandate of the Reserve Bank has, to a certain extent, some merit.
Our complaint has been that the Reserve Bank is not focusing strongly on employment. It has been taken here that that mandate remains.
The discussions are still on within the governing party on the way ahead on the matter, but its finance minister has already taken the Public Protector's report on review.
Shall meet tonight to discuss what action we must take against the Minister of Finance, Malusi Gigaba. We've already written to him a letter.
Has done a great service to South Africa by raising the mandate of the Reserve Bank and the need to amend the Constitution to change the mandate of the Reserve Bank. I say this because for the longest time, people were not aware of the fact that the Reserve Bank is privately owned and creates money out of nothing, which most people are not aware of.
And now joining me in studio to further unpack this, we're joined by Botsang Muilwa, a political analyst, and we also have Wellington Kize. He's from the African Business Leaders Forum. A very warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
I'll start with you, Mr. Muilwa. Now, the Parliament is opposing the Public Protector's remedial action, which adds to the growing number of opponents to a change in the SARB's mandate. Now, is the opposition to the Public Protector's remedial action just on technical grounds, or has the change in the mandate of the SARB really become an untouchable area, and why is this?
Good evening, Leslie, and good evening to my fellow panelists as well as the AN7 viewers. Again and again, the Speaker of Parliament, the Parliament, as well as the legal advisor of Parliament are missing the plot. I don't think they have applied their minds properly to the Public Protector's report. I don't think those who advise the Speaker of Parliament, they've applied their mind properly, or the Speaker is not listening. because, you know, people are excited about this report and recommendations of the Public Protector to say she is looking forward, or the Office of the Public Protector, to change the legislation in the country regarding the South African Reserve Bank. Even I looked at their motivation for their application. They are talking about the main mandate of the SARB is to protect the currency of the country. I mean, what kind of parliament sits and talk about the mandate of the South African Reserve Bank being to protect the currency of the country? It can't be that. The South African Reserve Bank, it's part of the treasury, it's part of the most important fiscus of the country. Its mandate cannot only be reduced to protecting the currency of the country. And if that was its mandate, what happened between 2007 and 2016 when 17 international banks, which included 4 South African major banks, they actually colluded, connived, and corrupted the currency of the country that the same Reserve Bank is supposed to be colluding on. Therefore, we cannot sit here as a nation and say the duty of the Reserve Bank is to protect the currency, and this is the main thing. They may not be mentioning other things, but I think they are misreading what the Public Protector says. The public, and I've read that report over and over. I've come to this platform and other platforms and I've discussed it. The recommendations made by the Public Protector is, 1, banks have connived. Foreign multinationals have connived. There has not been protection to the currency. There has not been protection to the monetary system of the country. There's not been protection to the consumers who are in majority, sadly, in this country, is the black majority. Therefore, the Public Protector has come to a conclusion that prior to 1994, after 1994, up until 2017, the Reserve Bank has not conducted itself in a manner that is for the best interest of the population of South Africa. So the status quo cannot remain. Now, as a Public Protector, there's nothing wrong in doing that. Her duty, or the duty of that office, is to protect the best interest of the country and make recommendations to legislative makers, like Parliament is one of them, to say, can you do something as Parliament about this statutory body of Parliament, of government, that is not doing its duties to protect the citizens? Now, for Parliament to stand up, especially the Speaker of Parliament, to stand up and go to court, the Speaker of Parliament is sitting where she is sitting for the best interest of the public. The Public Protector is like the vanguard of public interest. They are supposed to be working together for the best interest of the public, looking into the Competition Commission reports and findings and exposures that has been happening in the last few months. It is actually bizarre for me that all these people, especially from the ruling African National Congress, who are entrusted with the votes of 12 million voters that are supposed to be protecting, they actually stand up and act. In my view, the ANC-led Speaker of Parliament and the caucus of the ANC, it is actually acting against public policy and the interest of the public. And I don't think it is a good move. They may win in court at the moment because the Public Protector has been caught off guard. She thought Parliament is there to protect the interest of the country, but it doesn't look like Parliament has the interest of the people in the country at heart. The Reserve Bank is privately owned. When you talk of a central bank in a normal democracy, in a normal country, government will have a say and an influence to the Reserve Bank. In this country, the Reserve Bank is 63% owned by shareholders who are foreign. That's 1. 2, the Reserve Bank has failed to protect the currency. 3, the Reserve Bank has failed to manage the commercial banks that corrupted its mandate and went on and benefited from this whole process. So it's actually shocking for me that the Speaker of Parliament, as well as MPs, are putting a blind eye on the intended purpose. They're looking at the face value of the report of the Public Protector.
Let me just bring in Mr. Mkhize. Yes. Now, let's look at the interest of the country and whose role is it to make sure that there is a balanced and sustainable economic growth and ensuring that the socio-economic well-being of the citizens are protected?
Sure. Good evening, Lesego, and good evening to the viewers. I echo the sentiments of my fellow panelists here. I think there is an error of judgment from the part of the Speaker to go to the extent of going to court It's bizarre. Don't understand the logic of it. The duty, it is the duty of the public protector to protect the public. The report, the CX report came out, and there hasn't been anyone who has come with concrete evidence to say otherwise, to say the report is flawed, the report is wrong in these aspects. Now, having that in mind, no action has come forth from the Reserve Bank, which is in the space to act according to the report. So now when the public protector pronounces these suggestions, she might have maybe gone overboard to say change the constitution or change the status of the Reserve Bank. But I think at least there should be an add-on to say beyond protecting the currency, which in another way, I don't understand how to protect the currency. I cannot, because that is driven by speculation and investors who are all foreigners as well, and they will never have the interest of the public at heart. I think at least you should have said, let's add, people should have agreed, the Speaker should have agreed to say, let's add to its mandate also the issue of scrutinizing the activities within the Reserve Bank. Here is a case in point, here's the report. Mr. Reserve Bank, what have you done in the interest of the public? And I think that would have been a much better approach. Why we go to court, with regards to that, I still have to try and understand.
Mr. Mule, let me come back to you. So do you believe that there is a need for a change in the SARB's mandate?
Well, not the mandate per se, the way it conducts itself, because according to the constitution of the country, and SARB is one of the, independent or supposed to be independent sectors of government. But if what has been defined in the constitution of the country, in the treasury regulations of the country, towards the SARB, it's not happening. My colleague has just alluded to the fact that why are people talking about protecting the currency of the country when actually the currency of the country is being influenced? That's basic economics. Sure. It's being influenced by market forces. So you can't say a reserve bank of a country exists to protect the currency when it has failed over years to do that. But I think it needs to be reviewed. And I agree with him that what Parliament should have done, they should have called in the public protector and say, let us engage further. The public protector was not informed by thumb-sucking. She was informed by what transpired in the country over a number of years. The duties and the reports of the Competition Commission are actually exonerating the public protector. They're actually supporting the findings of the public protector. But the Reserve Bank is not conducting itself or performing its duties the way it was supposed to. How did it happen? If the Reserve Bank was supposed to be the guardian or the custodian of the currency, how did it happen that since 2007 until 2016, I will keep it to 2016 because we don't know what happened in 2017, that 4 major banks of the country colluded and connived with another 13 foreign banks? Where was the Reserve Bank during that time to protect the currency of this country? And also, I see and hear a lot of people talking about the rating agencies and so forth and so forth. We should remember, Lesego and the viewers, rating agencies are capitalist profit-making agencies. Their interest is to make sure that investors in any country in the world is going to maximize profits. They don't care about the well-being of the citizens and what. They want a political stability in order to maximize profits. Now, if they rate a country, these rating agents, they will rate it to say, is the political situation in that particular country conducive and stable enough for them to maximize profits? So we should not be confused as a nation to say now we've been downgraded, therefore things are bad in the country. No. That should not be the barometer.
Let me just bring in Mr. Oliver Dixon. Thank you so much for joining us. He is the socio-political analyst. A very warm welcome to you.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I just want to get your opinion as well on this. Busisiwe Kwebane says that her report only refers to the chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee to initiate a process to change the constitution Constitution. Has the Public Protector's remedial action been misunderstood, as she has been claiming?
To a large extent, it has been, and I'm glad that the South African Reserve Bank, along with Parliament and ABSA, decided to take this matter to court on review, precisely because court is going to be able to give us clarity on what that remedial action really means. But the Public Protector made it clear in public exactly what she meant by those remedial actions. So there are three issues at play here. It's one about protecting the separation of powers as a democratic principle. The other about what's the behavior and mandate of the Reserve Bank ought to be. And another one about what the behavior and mandate of Parliament ought to be insofar as protecting the public ought to be. So on the first issue of separation of powers, as a preliminary juristic reading, the Public Protector is clearly wrong in telling Parliament to do something, only insofar as you believe that she foretold them what the outcome ought to be. The slight difference here is that the Public Protector didn't tell them what the outcome should be. She just said, you guys need to have a debate. And that's the end of it. Whether or not the Constitution changes after that debate is a political matter that's outside the hands of the Public Protector. So I don't think that she overstepped the separation of powers in that instance. If she had told them that you must have the debate and then you must conclude that the mandate should change, then she would have in that instance. So that's a clarity that I hope that the court will be able to make. Insofar as the mandate of the Reserve Bank is concerned, I think it should change. Because, and again, all the opponents of the Public Protector's remedial action only speaks to procedural matters. They don't speak to the actual substance of that remedial action. No one is asking the question really, except for now, is it a good thing for the mandate to change? Everyone's asking, procedurally, is it the Public Protector's place to make that recommendation? And so the conversation about whether the mandate ought to change, the substantive question needs to happen, right? And that debate needs to happen with the relevant authorities. And here's why I think that mandate ought to change. For far too long has our prioritization of human rights in the developing world been about the prioritization of political rights and not the prioritization of socio-economic rights. The Public Protector then says that the mandate of the Reserve Bank ought to include the protection of not just political rights of the people, but the socio-economic rights of the people. Because for far too long, people have been told us everything is fine in South Africa because black people can vote now, but black people are still without the land. Black people are still without owning the means of production within this country. So the socio-political, the socio-economic rights of people, of the marginalized people of this country is not in consideration. That remedial action puts the socio-economic protection of the poorest of people at the center of it, right? But this is not divorced from currency, from currency protection. And the argument that the Reserve Bank, and Tito Mboweni made this argument on Facebook, which is bizarre, is to suggest that the mandate of the Reserve Bank ought to be the protection of the currency and price stability. For some reason, they think that mandate is mutually exclusive from protecting the socio-economic rights of the country, right? The socio-economic rights of poor people specifically. Nothing in that argument suggests to us that they can't do both at the same time, right? And I think they ought to have a conversation about how they can do that.
Let me just invite the gentleman in. Let me start with Mr. Butsang and then I'll come to you, sir.
Okay, I like the way my colleague here puts everything on the table, while yet at the beginning he thinks that the Public Protector has overstepped her mandate. That is exactly the point. The public is a public protector. Yeah. He is correctly talking about socio-economic issues. That's where a public protector steps in to say the commercial and the economic and the legislative and the judicial sector, you are doing your job properly, but you are failing to understand and pick up that this economic and legislative processes are actually disadvantaging the public that I'm supposed to be protecting. Therefore, I'm requesting you to go and what I like about this recommendation of the Public Protector is that he is correct. He is not telling them what to do because they are expected as members of parliament, as the legislative authority, they are expected to know, especially when a matter is being brought to their attention. The Public Protector is bringing a matter to the attention of legislative people, the lawmakers of this country, Parliament. 400 people are sitting there. The Public Protector obviously is saying, Parliament, You have been doing very well in protecting the constitution and the integrity of the country. But the very same constitution that is protecting the Reserve Bank, that is protecting the interest of the people, has failed us because the Reserve Bank has failed to execute its mandate for various reasons. I don't want to get into the reasons. I don't want to even talk about the Tito Mboweni Facebook thing. We cannot be running the country about a former, what do you call them, governor going on Facebook and writing stories that are irrelevant. The public protector is taking this matter to a relevant platform, Parliament, and say, Parliament, the citizens of this country, the population of South Africa, have been disadvantaged because of the Reserve Bank not doing its duties. Can you re-look into this matter? And she leaves it there. Now, they decide not to look into the matter, to run to court and say to court, but the public protector is putting us into a corner. What kind of legislative or lawmakers are them if they can't be decisive, if they can't apply their minds? So I'm saying to the nation today, the public protector is not wrong. She's doing her duty where an institution of government has failed to execute its duties. It is up to the parliamentarians, it is up to the Speaker of Parliament. And let's not rush and talk about amending or changing the mandate of the Reserve Bank. Let's not rush to that. Let us check if the Reserve Bank has been conducting itself in a manner it was supposed to conduct itself as a legislative body of government. And I am saying it has not been doing that, and the status quo cannot remain the same. We are sitting in a country where the Reserve Bank is owned 63% by a German family. One German family is owned 60% of the reserve. How can that be normal? That's abnormal. Two, we are sitting in a country where the notes, the currency, your 10 rands and your 200 rand notes of this country are being printed in Germany. Logically in Germany, because the German family controls the Reserve Bank. And you think that it's normal? It cannot be normal. All that Busisiwe Mkhwebane is doing is saying to this nation, can we re-look at how this thing is structured and then revisit it? And it's the duty of Parliament to do that.
Now she has said that. What should have been the next step for Parliament when she had shown them that this is the situation? What should they have done instead of running to courts?
I agree with my fellow panelist here next to me. The issue of running to court, it's a tendency that has bedeviled the country. I don't know what wisdom is sitting in courts that surpasses all other wisdom that exists. Number one, the presentation of the public protector should have been considered and answered before people go to court. Whether they are wrong or right, I cannot adjudicate that. The public protector is right. When there is no action taken, if we go back to say, when did the CX report come out? It's months now. And there is no mention of what the remedial, there's no mention of what the remedial action is going to be. So the public protector has done what she's mandated to do. She's within her mandate. And number two, the issue of us worrying as a country now, black, white, yellow, pink, whatever, worrying about the stability of the currency more than worrying about the stability of the people is dangerous. We have a false stability if the currency is stable and the gap between the rich and the poor increases at the rate that it is increasing. I think we are more unstable with a stable currency and the unstable socio-economic conditions out there.
Let me bring in Mr. Dixon. Your comment on that.
A few things here. One, that Parliament is going to court to challenge not the substance of the remedial action, but to challenge the procedural sanctity of that. We agree here that they shouldn't have, because we like the political argument, because it's a nice leftist argument to make about socialism and the protection of the state and the protection of poor people. But we must admit to some margin that the procedural integrity still matters, because the public protector may one day make a recommendation which the politics thereof we don't like, again, that oversteps the power. So I think what Parliament should have done is that we don't agree that it's your place to tell us that we should initiate this debate. But we think it's an important debate nonetheless, and we will have the debate because you asked us to.
What, if I may ask my colleague, what is it? And I haven't heard anybody, from parliamentarians and politicians, nobody has ever come up, including the opposition, and say it is not within the mandate of the public protector to do what she did. They haven't provided substantive information. Why is it not in her mandate? I've said in various platforms to say it is within her mandate when she realizes that the nation or the population is actually being messed up by the commercial institutes. I mean, we have a case now, and that may have informed, and I'm convinced that informed Advocate Mkhwebane. A case of 4 major banks of the country, and I don't know why there were 4, because in my findings it's 5 of them. They connived. Why can't it take only that element? I'm not counting the cement collusion, the milk, the bread, and all other conniving. I'm talking about the banks that the Reserve Bank is supposed to manage and govern. They actually cheated this country. They actually robbed the people of this country.
I'm going to just hold you. There's something coming from the producer. There's a question now. If one is to address the opposition to the public protectors recommending on the change in the SARB's mandate, what will be an appropriate body to initiate the process instead?
I've already said it's Parliament. I'll let my colleagues know. I've already said it's Parliament.
Okay, let's hear Mr. Dixon.
I think a parliamentary process, we must recognize and remember, is 2 processes. It's 1, a legislative process, and 2, a political process. The political process is one that we test by the ballot, right? The legislative process is one that we test in various institutions within this country. We test the we test the legislature using the judiciary, and if the judiciary finds that the legislature is inefficient, it recommends that you ought to make some change to it to fix it. Right? This is why when the Constitutional Court makes a landmark ruling, sometimes that ruling has to go to Parliament so that Parliament can fix the legislature thereof. A case in point is when when the Constitutional Court said that recreational use of marijuana should be something that ought to be legal. But because the legislature hasn't caught up, the Constitutional Court sent that to Parliament. Right? That's well within the powers of the political flow. And I agree here. No one's really made a substantive argument about why it ought not to be the Chapter 9 institutions as well that ought to be able to do that. So I think that the Auditor General should be able to do something like that.
I've run out of time. I'm so sorry, gentlemen. I have to take a break. But thank you so much for joining me in studio for this discussion. That was Oliver Dixon, socio-political analyst. We also had Putsang Muila, political analyst. We also had Wellington Kize, African Business Leaders Forum. Right now, 8 and 7, we'll take a short break. We'll be back with more news and updates. Stay tuned.